At number 10, we have Daniel Kim and Grace Park, who acted in the rebooted CBS action crime drama series Hawaii Five-0 from the start of 2010. For 7 long years, the duo played their characters Chin Ho Kelly and Konu Kolokoa until they were forced off the show in 2017 because of a contract dispute. Reportedly, Daniel and Grace were both looking to receive equal pay that their co-stars Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Conn were obtaining. It was stated that CBS would not waver their final decision and set a disclosed amount of 10 to 15% lower pay grade than their castmates. Eventually, CBS went on to write Daniel and Grace out of their show in the 8th season, and in it their removal was addressed in true drama show fashion during the premiere. Funnily enough though, it's said that the drama off screen was even juicier. Despite the network issuing glowing statements in regards to their departed stars, Grace was all but thrilled when Peter Lenkov, her former showrunner, released a tweet with indications that Grace had left the series to focus on family. Grace detailed the occurrence by explaining how the situation felt very charged to her, as well as that she did not feel it was right of Peter to make a statement on her behalf, regardless of whether or not he had good intentions. She finalized by informing Deadline that she cared about Peter as an individual, but that she did not leave the show because of what he implied. At number 9, we have Valerie Harper's self-titled sitcom where she starred alongside Jason Bateman with high spirits due to the fact that the show's ratings were increasing. Valerie was said to be headed in a promisingly strong direction for its 3rd season, and Harper decided this was as good as any time to inquire about a raise. In accordance with People, by Valerie's 3rd year, she was contracted to receive $56,750 per episode, with an additional 10% of the show's adjusted gross profits. Rather, Valerie requested there be a new contract drawn of $100,000 and 35% of added profits instead. When the studio refused to play into Valerie's demands, she pulled out an old ruse that once worked for her 12 years prior as the star of Rhoda. For this one, her request for a raise was denied. She denied showing up for work until she got what she wanted. However, her holdout tactic was not successful the following time, as Valerie's production team agreed to terms of a new contract worth $65,000 per episode with 12.5% of profits. This is what sparked Valerie's return to set, but she was let go after filming a single episode. As a result, the Valerie writers killed off her character and rebranded the show as Valerie's Family for the 3rd season. The following season, the show got a new name once more called The Hogan Family, and while the sitcom maintained its popularity without its original star, Valerie's karma came in full circle when she successfully sued production on the grounds of wrongful dismissal. At number 8, we have the crazy saga of Marcus Chong and The Matrix. His story comes after the success of The Matrix when the film creators had pitched for a double sequel. The writing/director team of the Wachowskis initially wanted to reprise Marcus with a reported offer of $250,000, but Marcus was seeking a whopping $1 million, a seemingly bizarre negotiation tactic which presumably later backfired and got him removed from the franchise. He was killed off between the first and final movies. Allegedly, after asking for $1 million, Marcus's lawyer delivered an ultimatum to the Wachowskis in a letter. In it, a matching sum of $500,000 with added bonuses and promises to receive press premiere guarantees was offered, or oppositely, Marcus would do the movies for free. Following the latter, Marcus apparently publicly added that he was being threatened and spoke on the behalf of Andy Wachowski on a call, which brought about more drama and confusion. At one point, he was reportedly taken into custody for making threats and later unsuccessfully sued the production company and distributors of The Matrix. At number 7, we have Muppet star Steve Whitmire. Despite there being several reported reasonings for the Kermit the Frog voice actor and puppeteer's acts from Disney, the big deal breaker was supposedly money. Apparently, one of the reasons given for Steve's dismissal was his refusal to work on a specific project because of an alleged contract dispute. However, Steve told The Hollywood Reporter that he was a casualty of a classified contract dispute between AFTRA and Disney Labor Relations. According to THR, Disney and the Muppets studio, though, Steve's negotiation tactics pushed back production for many years, even going as far back as the Sesame Street days of voicing Ernie and Kermit. A source informed Gizmodo that he was let go for demanding too much money and not for focusing on the Muppets after Sesame Street. At number 6, we have former Family Matter actress Jamie Foxworth. Now, there's no hard confirmation from the cast nor crew as to why Jamie was ever dismissed, but there have been so many rumors stringed from her role's strange removal on the show, where her then character Judy exits a scene up the stairs in season 4 and never comes back down. According to FM's co-creator William Bickley, Jamie's exit came about because of budget considerations, but many allege that her mother was behind the actress's dismissal. A mysteriously reported BET article hints hinted that the responsibility should be placed on her mother and then manager Gwen Fox in light of Jamie's contract not being renewed for demanding more money. The position Gwen held makes the story plausible, but regardless, Jamie's career never fully recovered from the early setback. Still, Jamie has kept a pretty lighthearted and humorous attitude about the entire ordeal. At number 5, we have Crispin Glover and why he never returned for the Back to the Future sequel. Crispin had switched out his story numerous times, but one standing point was the studio not meeting his pay demands. He explained in an AV Club interview how he was offered $150,000 to reprise his George McFly role, but this was far less than what co-stars Tom Wilson and Leah Thompson were working for. In the opinion of Crispin, the producers were trying to force him out and punish him with physically uncomfortable scenes for questioning the script. Crispin claimed he would have experienced whatever discomfort needed if he was being properly compensated. Therefore, when the actor tried his hand at negotiation, the higher-ups apparently lowered the amount even further, to an alleged $25,000 instead. Crispin chalked this up to them not wanting to work with him, yet The Hollywood Reporter featured a slightly different spin, where they spoke about Crispin not liking the ideal script, so he demanded $100 million to take the role back. According to Crispin, though, this alleged fabrication was merely a quote campaign smear tactic that he was supposedly asked to receive the same salary which Michael J. Fox was reigning in at the time. At number 4, we have crime scene investigation actors Georgia Fox and George Eads. The two stars of CSI faced intense behind-the-scenes drama while filming the show because they were both eventually removed after allegedly refusing to show up for filming. In accordance with People, both actors were dissatisfied with the results of their proposed raises of approximately $20,000 per episode. When the actors attempted to hold out for more, they got snipped out the equation. CBS's co-president Leslie Moonves made a point to state that a contract is a contract and that the company was maintaining the future of the network television business. Although there is a happier ending for this one, as both Georgia and George were invited to take their jobs back, but their rehire came with some new ground rules. The raises initially offered were revoked, resulting in the actors' negotiation tactics costing them an approximate $1.76 billion. Big yikes. Even worse, George once claimed he wasn't even being petty and that he merely overslept when he didn't show up to work, rather than the hinted monetary gain story that was originally created. At number 3, we have iconic Disney star Hilary Duff, who was a staple for all early 2000s preteens with her crimped hair and then sweet style. The reason why Hilary and Paulo's Lizzie McGuire 2 manifestation didn't play out in real life was because of reported money disputes. Without Hilary, there would surely be no Lizzie, and apparently Hilary wanted more than what she was making then. According to Entertainment Weekly, the LM franchise closed off when Susan Duff, Hilary's then momager, refused Disney's deal for a sequel. Reportedly, Hilary was offered $500,000 in bonus for the second film if the first film surpassed $50 million. This was said to be a huge increase from the $100,000 bonus Disney originally offered the pair, along with part of a $4 million offer for its sequel, quote, against 4% of the studio's gross for the film. In full, Hilary's Lizzie payday exceeded this, but her mother expected the bonus to come immediately as opposed to waiting. In retaliation, Disney withdrew their deal completely while effectively axing the Lizzie McGuire franchise. In light of the incident, Susan said to Entertainment Weekly how Disney tried to, quote, bully them into what they wanted and was unsuccessful. So in turn, she and her daughter turned away from a sequel while the company ditched an entire series. At number 2, we have Walking Dead Maggie's actress Lauren Cohan. Lauren's character was surely a staple in the WD franchise for nearly a decade, but in 2018 AMC had to complicatedly decide to give in to the actress' then contract demands or remove her from her role. In her Entertainment Weekly interview, Lauren admitted that she was taken aback by her negotiation, which indicated that maybe it was time to leave. She recalls being baffled and feeling like it was just not a fit anymore, due to her and AMC not lining up in so many ways. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Lauren was already actively seeking new jobs around this time and was receiving multiple. As a result, she was no longer a part of the Walking Dead series, but the final decision to let her go was unusually a huge departure from that of the comic book series on which the show bases itself, though not entirely unlikely. However, Lauren could potentially see the return of her character Maggie in the future, despite her character being offed, as her ending was technically left up in the air. At number 1, we have Iron Man actor Terrence Howard, whose leave is somewhat of a sticky situation. It's difficult to say for certain if he was fired or pushed out, but no doubt his demise in the Iron Man franchise had the same end result. While Terrence starred in the first Iron Man film and was reportedly making more than leading actor Robert Downey Jr., he was excluded from the second, and apparently there are several reasons. The main one stemmed from an alleged battle over pay. Despite him being the big bill topper in the first film, Robert Downey soon copped the title of the world's highest paid actors for Forbes for 3 consecutive years, and moved into Terrence's money spot by the time of the second film. Terrence's top spot of $3.5 million in pay supposedly stemmed from the combination of risk associated with the Robert Downey bets at the time, as well as his Oscar nomination for Hustle and Flow. In Terrence's explanation, the reason behind Robert's earning so much in the subsequent Iron Man films is alleged because the studio was borrowing from Terrence to pay Robert, and he further claimed that he was set to accumulate $8 million for the second movie. Instead, Marvel Studios supposedly reworked their offered contract and reduced it to $1 million, with plans of using the remaining dough to pay Robert. Finally, once Terrence pushed back, Marvel rumoredly closed their deal entirely and hired Don Cheadle in place of Terrence.
Number 10. Will Smith and Margot Robbie. In 2013, Star magazine published a bombshell allegation that Will Smith was caught cheating with his co-star Margot Robbie when they worked together on the movie Focus. The report actually claimed that in photo booth pictures that they found and published on their cover, Will appeared to be shirtless and Margot lifted up her own shirt to reveal her lingerie. The magazine also claimed that after they pulled the curtain back to take the pictures, they were getting very touchy-feely with each other in the dark. The scandal was massive at the time because Will is married to Jada Pinkett Smith, and back then they had yet to admit to having an open relationship. But the rumors soon died down as E! News revealed that the pictures were commissioned by a production, and that the entire cast and crew saw them being taken. It also came out that Will and Margot are absolutely just friends, and there was nothing else going on between them. Even Margot was quick to deny everything on Twitter. Quote, "There's absolutely no truth to the ridiculous rumor. It's disappointing that goofing around on set could be taken so out of context." Well, people do tend to jump to conclusions. Number 9. Dominic West and Lily James. The actors were at the height of scandal when they were photographed getting cozy in Rome, all while filming their new series The Pursuit of Love in 2020. The pictures show the stars kissing, sitting at a cafe, standing on the Spanish steps, and riding tandem on a scooter, looking very much to be on a date. Although Lily was single at the time, Dominic has been married to Catherine Fitzgerald for 10 years, and they have 4 children together. A source told The Sun that when Catherine saw the pictures, she was devastated and tried to get a hold of her husband, but he wasn't answering his phone. She was reportedly shocked by the whole thing because she didn't realize anything was going on. But only a few days later, there was a photo taken out the front of the couple's home with a note saying, "Our marriage is strong and we're very much still together. Thank you." Since the incident, James has kept quiet and cancelled various interviews to promote her latest film Rebecca, which is probably a good decision considering the fact that both parties have not yet publicly talked about their affair since it occurred. Number 8. Chad Michael Murray and Paris Hilton. In 2003, Chad Michael Murray and Sophia Bush fell in love while filming the TV series One Tree Hill. 2 years later, they were married. However, they separated just 5 months later when rumors swirled that Chad had cheated on his wife with Paris Hilton, his co-star on the film House of Wax. During the time he and Paris both worked on the horror film together, they reportedly had an affair, according to Backstreet Boy Nick Carter, who was dating Paris at the time. But after separating, Chad and Sophia still had to keep working together for another 3 years on One Tree Hill. If that's not awkward, I don't know what is. It wasn't until 2011 that the actor decided to rethink the way in which he was living his whole life. Quote, "When you're young and you're thrown into something that I was definitely not ready for, I'm human and I screw up." But his ex-wife definitely took the whole affair much harder, and it's clear that his actions really affected her in the long term. In 2017, she wrote in Cosmopolitan that the scandal was a massive event in her life and the trauma of it was amplified by how public it became. She has also said that she feels the marriage was a joke and it did nothing but reduce her to a Hollywood statistic. Ouch. Number 7. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Jen and Brad got married in 2000 in a lavish Malibu wedding, and things were perfect for the Hollywood it couple until they suddenly announced their divorce in 2005. What happened exactly? Well, long story short is Brad met Angelina for the first time on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and the rest is history. Apparently the movie was filled with so much romantic tension, it was impossible for the two stars not to fall for each other. I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is probably the sexiest spy movie to ever exist, so it's easy to see how everything went down. But But the problem was that Brad was still married to Jen. But he didn't let that stop him, and they allegedly still got together despite his marriage. To add insult to injury, he said about his marriage to Jen, quote, "I was trying to pretend the marriage was something that it wasn't. I'm satisfied with making true choices and finding the woman I love, Angie, and building a family that I love so much." That sounds pretty harsh, but it turned out that Brad and Angelina's relationship wasn't just a fling, and they actually went on to date for many years and had a large family before finally getting married in 2014. The love triangle was one of the biggest celebrity scandals of the early 2000s, and it still dominates the tabloids to this day. Number 6. Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. The actress and writer Carrie Fisher was never one to hold back when she had something to say, and in 2016 she shared a fascinating piece of history in her own memoir called The Princess Diarist. According to Carrie, she had a brief but very intense affair with her Star Wars co-star Harrison Ford while they were filming the movie in 1976. But what's really quite troubling is that People magazine reported that she was just 19 years old when the 3-month affair took place, while Harrison was 36 years old and married to his wife of 15 years, Mary Marquardt. To make matters worse, the couple also shared 2 kids together. In terms of sneaking around, Carrie actually said, quote, "It was Han and Leia during the week and Carrie and Harrison during the weekend." She also explained to The Guardian that the affair between them had eventually come down to unreciprocated love. She said that she'll always feel something for him. The Star Wars actress was so young at the time that they got together, and although she must have known it was wrong, it's hard to say that the blame rests completely on her. What's even sadder is that after Carrie died in 2016, Harrison never fully confessed to the affair, probably more out of shame for cheating on his wife. Number 5. Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The co-stars brought their on-screen romance into the real world after working together on the FX series Fargo. The pair appeared on season 3 of the anthology crime drama, which debuted in April of 2017. Only a month later, the actress announced on social media that she had split from her husband of 7 years, Riley Stearns. Following her separation, Winstead was spotted on a date, hooking up with McGregor in London, and cheating rumors were flying because although she was single, he was very much not. The Trainspotting actor was still married to Eve Mavrakis at the time, with whom he shares 4 children. After the Emmy winner was spotted getting cozy with Winstead, fans began to wonder about the status of his marriage, but it wasn't until January of 2018 that his now ex-wife filed for divorce. But while the two managed to keep their romance relatively private, their relationship raised eyebrows even among their family members. In fact, in August of 2018, McGregor's daughter Clara had some strong feelings on the new relationship at the time. She took to Instagram to comment on a Mary Elizabeth Winstead fan page, quote, "Most beautiful and talented woman on earth? Oh man, y'all are delusional. This girl is a piece of trash." Wow. Number 4. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Although it's been over for decades, Nicole Kidman's marriage to Tom Cruise is still one of Hollywood's most talked about relationships. Cruise met Nicole Kidman on the set of the movie Days of Thunder, and the pair were instantly smitten with one another, and they soon started engaging in a torrid love affair. But at the time of meeting, you guessed it, the Top Gun actor was still married to Mimi Rogers, whom he wed in 1987. As it became clear that the affair was more than just a simple fling, Tom divorced his first wife in February of 1990, and less than 1 year later, he exchanged vows with Nicole in December of 1990. They even adopted 2 children, Isabella Jane and Connor Anthony, and eventually went on to make 2 more movies together as a couple. But as we all know, their marriage was far from perfect, and they ended up splitting a decade later in 2001. Looking back on the divorce, Nicole said, quote, "It took me a very long time to heal. It was a shock to my system. We were in a bubble, just the 2 of us. We became very dependent on one another." Number 3. Billy Crudup and Claire Danes. The massive scandal started in late 2003. Billy and his girlfriend of 8 years, Mary Louise Parker, who at the time was about 7 months pregnant with his son, broke up. The New York Post reported that the actor had moved on with his stage beauty co-star Claire Danes, who was only 24 at the time. In the summer of that year, the former co-stars had been spotted getting cozy all over New York City, and even had a very cute looking courtside date filled with PDA. Robbie. But Billy wasn't the only cheater in that situation, as Claire also ended up breaking the heart of her longtime boyfriend Ben Lee to be with the actor. Their love affair didn't last long, however, and it's clear that all the heartbreak wasn't even worth it, because they ended up splitting up just 3 years later. Naturally, the ultra-private couple didn't discuss the reason behind their breakup, but the tabloids were happy to do so for them. Several magazines even claimed that Danes had left Billy for Hugh Dancy, but we'll never really know what happened. Years later, Claire said, quote, "I was just in love with him and needed to explore that. I was 24, I didn't quite know what those consequences would be." Number 2, Morena Baccarin and Ben McKenzie. The Homeland actress furiously denied rumors that she had been cheating on her husband at the time, Austin Chick. But when she got pregnant by her Gotham co-star Ben McKenzie, there was very little she could do to cover it up. And just like that, the cheating rumors were confirmed. Although the actress tried to shut down the allegations, according to a TMZ report, the divorce papers filed in 2015 by Austin show that he claimed that he was still sharing a bed with Morena when she conceived Mackenzie's baby. She did get a happy ending though, and eventually gave birth to Mackenzie's daughter Frances in March of 2016, just 2 weeks before her divorce from Austin was finalized, and went on to marry Mackenzie in June the following year. But did she at least feel a little bad for sleeping with her co-star while she was married? Well, not really. In fact, she told People magazine that working with him on Gotham was wonderful. Quote, "Ben's the sweetest. It's very nice to work with your significant other, especially when you're pregnant, because you know you'll get some extra TLC and get taken care of." I mean, yeah, I guess that sounds nice if you can ignore the question of how they met. Number 1, John Malkovich and Michelle Pfeiffer. The legendary actor John Malkovich caused intense scandal both on and off the screen when it came to filming 1998's Dangerous Liaisons with his co-star Michelle Pfeiffer. At the time, the actor had been married to actress Glenn Headley for 6 years, but that completely fell apart in the midst of his affair with Michelle. Interestingly enough, even the film's director, Stephen Frears, said, quote, "Dangerous Liaisons is about betrayal and lies and relationships unraveling. It was one of those times where reality and art intersect. It was overwhelming to John. Even for a man who delights in bad behavior, that was a difficult time. Not to mention the fact that John's older brother, Danny, told Entertainment Weekly in 1993 that when the actor came home with Michelle, that was the happiest that he had ever seen him." But even though John and his ex-wife got divorced in 1988, the affair didn't last long either, and they reportedly broke up not long after. But apparently Malkovich took the breakup very hard and reportedly cried for a whole year. The two of them must have really had something special, because he told The Guardian in 2008, quote, "It's hard to believe Michelle Pfeiffer ever said hello to me." I mean, if you can forget about the fact that he cheated on his wife, it's still romantic the way he talks about Michelle. Number 10, Justin Timberlake and Elisha Wainwright. Justin Timberlake and Elisha Wainwright made headlines when they were spotted holding hands during a night out in New Orleans. The two actors were shooting the movie Palmer, which is a drama about an ex-college football star who returns home after being in prison. The co-stars were photographed together getting cozy at a bar in Louisiana, sitting at a table holding hands and talking to one another. The photos showed Justin, who didn't appear to be wearing his wedding ring, holding hands with the actress under a table and drinking together. At one point, Elisha could be seen resting her hand on the singer's knee, and while he was standing up, putting his arm around her waist. The photos caused a huge scandal because he's been married to Jessica Biel since 2012. Their relationship was really being tested, and Justin had to make a public statement the following month, apologizing for his strong lapse in judgment, and claimed that despite the photos, nothing happened between him and his co-star. Number 9, Leanne Rimes and Eddie Cibrian. This affair was not exactly unique. In fact, it's a story so common in Hollywood that it borders on cliche. The actors were co-stars who met on the set of a Lifetime movie called Northern Lights. They immediately hit it off and the flirting began. But the kicker was that they were both already married at the time to other people. But hey, in classic Hollywood fashion, they didn't let that stop them, and not long after meeting, they were photographed having dinner together, and the rumor mill did the rest. After extreme press coverage of the affair, both Leanne and Eddie decided to make it official and separated from their respective spouses to be with each other. They eventually ended up tying the knot in 2011, but the story doesn't entirely really end there. A few years later, Eddie was caught cheating on Leanne at Wendy Williams' 50th birthday party, but she claims she's unfazed by the whole thing and doesn't seem to mind if he flirts with other women. You know what they say, sometimes how you get them is how you lose them too. Number 8. Helena Bonham Carter and Kenneth Branagh. The two are believed to have begun their secret relationship on the set of the film Frankenstein in 1994, which Kenneth played the lead role and Helena played Frankenstein's adopted sister, Elizabeth. At the time, he had been married to Emma Thompson for 8 years, who was adored by fans. The two were even dubbed the Golden Couple by the British press, and seemingly had the perfect marriage, which is why the affair caused a massive scandal that rocked tabloids across the nation. They split in 1995, and years later, Emma has admitted that her tearful scenes in Love Actually were so persuasive because she had had her heart broken very badly by Kenneth. It was a little awkward because both actresses had to work together in the Harry Potter films, with Helena playing Bellatrix and Emma playing Professor Trelawney. But in 2013, she revealed that the two had made their peace years ago, and that the divorce was all blood under the bridge. But Emma even joked that she and her Harry Potter co-star were both slightly mad and a little bit fashion challenged, and she said, quote, "Perhaps that's why Ken loved us both." Number 7. Abbie Cornish and Ryan Phillippe. The actor first met Reese Witherspoon while starring alongside her in the 1999 movie Cruel Intentions. They actually fell so in love with each other that they ended up getting married that same year. But all good things must come to an end, especially Hollywood romances, and in 2008, Ryan started to get closer to his new co-star, Australian actress Abbie Cornish, while they were filming the movie Stop Loss. The two of them seemed to be so comfortable being seen in public together that they were eventually caught having dinner together in a Texas restaurant, despite the fact that there were some curtains around the table. They were also caught together again just outside of Ryan's apartment. The affair was so in your face, it really wasn't funny. But it wasn't until Reese discovered intimate messages back and forth that were being exchanged between the two of them on his phone. Then it was clear that after 7 years of marriage and 2 children, Reese was ready to call it quits with Ryan, and later went on to marry talent agent Jim Toth, whilst Ryan and Abbie's love affair eventually lost its spark. Number 6. Kerry Russell and Matthew Rhys. The actors played secret KGB agents and love interests on the FX spy drama The Americans. The romance between the two sparked while on set, but there was just one problem. At the time, Kerry was still married to Shane Deary, with whom she had 2 kids. The two leads play like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and so naturally, many believe their steamy scenes were indicative of a real-life romance. At the time though, they both heavily denied it. When talking about their sex scenes, Matthew said, quote, "We've all done a million of them in this crazy life we sign up for." He said that eventually the clinical element of it kicks in, which sort of takes away from that embarrassment. But it's obvious that there was really something going on, as the two of them were shopping for furniture together at Christmas in 2013. Not long after, Kerry parted ways with her now ex-husband. Unlike most cheating scandals though, this one seemed to turn out quite well, as Kerry, Matthew and Shane reportedly go on vacations together and frequently dine out as friends. Not only that, but in 2016, Kerry and Matthew welcomed their first child together and became a blended family. Number 5. Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott. The Beverly Hills 90210 star and her husband, Dean McDermott, have been making headlines since their scandalous start. The two actors met on the set of Lifetime's Mind Over Murder in 2005, only a year after Spelling married her first husband, Charlie Shanahan. Dean was also married at the time for more than a decade to Mary Jo Eustace, with whom he shares a son. Tori and Dean began cheating on their spouses the night they met. In fact, she wrote about the affair in her 2009 memoir, quote, "It was love at first sight. I fell so hard. Then I noticed he had a wedding ring. When someone asked, he pulled out photos of his children, and oh yeah, I had a husband too." Yeah, there's no making that sound better. She went on to say that the couple ended up spending the night together despite the fact that they were both married. And she knew it was meant to be because when she woke up next to Dean the following day, she said she had no regrets. The two married and went on to have 4 children together before yet another cheating scandal rocked their relationship in 2013, this time with Dean and the nanny. Number 4. Kate Hudson and Owen Wilson. The Hollywood stars had a massive cheating scandal while filming the 2006 comedy You, Me and Dupree, most likely because Kate was married to rock musician Chris Robinson for 6 years when she met Owen. The actors had a wild affair that lasted only 6 months, but it was definitely long enough to ruin Kate's relationship with her husband forever. Amid the rumors of infidelity, the Black Crowes singer ended up filing for divorce from Hudson in November December 2006, citing irreconcilable differences and seeking joint custody of their then 2-year-old son Ryder. A month after the film opened in July, Kate and Owen were confirmed to be officially dating. But the affair didn't seem to stack up to anything, as the couple's relationship was short-lived, and they broke up less than a year later. As the public started to turn against the actress, she countered the speculation by telling Harper's Bazaar that's not what happened. But looking back at the 2006 press tour, it was pretty obvious that something was happening between them, because it got kind of inappropriate. Owen asked her about wearing a bikini in the film and whether she and her husband have ever had a third wheel experience. Number 3. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Many Hollywood romances have started on screen and bled into the real lives of the actors involved. The most iconic has to be that of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. The two engaged in a scandalous affair after meeting on the set of To Have and Have Not back in 1944. Bacall was only 19 when she first met Bogart, who was already an acclaimed Hollywood star and 25 years older than her. But that wasn't the only issue. At the time, Bogart was married to actress Mayo Methot, but their relationship was reportedly falling apart. Bacall confessed in her 1978 memoir that there was no clap of thunder or lightning bolt moment when she first laid eyes on him in 1943, but the actors became close on the set when she was nervous about the production and turned to her co-star for support. Just 3 weeks into filming, the pair shared their first kiss in her dressing room after a day of filming, and he asked her for her phone number, which she famously scribbled on the back of a matchbook. After that, they began meeting in secret places and using their on-screen names to disguise their identities. Bogart eventually divorced his wife in 1945 and married Bacall just 11 days later. Number 2. Sienna Miller and Daniel Craig. Scandal erupted in 2005 when Sienna Miller's confession of love to Daniel Craig was publicly broadcast to the world while she was still married to Jude Law. The two were co-stars in the 2004 film Layer Cake with Sienna, and at some point the two got a little bit closer than they did on screen. But how did the news of the affair get out? Well, that's the tricky part. A journalist hacked Daniel's voicemail, retrieving a message that came from Sienna's phone number. Both parties tried to discredit the audio tape at first, but when the hearing took place for the hacking trial, it was proven to be authentic. Sienna tried to play it off and told the court that she always ended phone calls saying "I love you," insisting it wasn't some huge declaration of love. She denied that the message meant she was in a relationship with Daniel, but she did admit to the court that they were briefly involved. Jude reportedly learned of his wife's affair from the newspaper story and called Daniel to confront him, because the two used to be close friends. Talk about messy. And coming in at number 1, Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe. In the 90s, Meg Ryan had a squeaky clean image thanks to her role as a leading lady in many rom-coms like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. But her reputation took a huge hit when it emerged that she'd cheated on her then husband, Dennis Quaid, with her co-star Russell Crowe. Meg and Dennis had been married for 9 years and already shared a son together when she met Russell on the set of the 2000 thriller Proof of Life, and the pair had instant chemistry. But the affair reportedly caused awkwardness amongst the cast and crew, as the actress didn't even appear on the press tour because she was so worried that they would be asking her about it. In fact, the film's director, Taylor Hackford, blamed the cheating scandal for the film being a flop at the box office. Meg was publicly shamed, especially after she and Dennis officially announced their separation, because it allegedly put too much strain on their marriage. When she began dating her co-star, it really changed the public's perception of her as the quirky rom-com lead. In fact, she told The Guardian in 2003, quote, "I was all over the tabloids and I walked through the lobby and the place stopped. People stopped talking and stared at me." Goes to show you how sensational the affair was at the time.
At number 10, The Rock. On December 8th, Joe Rogan, a controversial podcast host, would take to his podcast The Joe Rogan Experience, and he would say that there was not a chance that The Rock was clean. However, if you are a Rock fan, then you know how small he was compared to today, and back in 2009, he actually admitted to using steroids in an interview. The Rock would say that he and his friends tried steroids when he was in college playing as a football player for the University of Miami Hurricanes. However, he said his use of steroids became more prominent when he entered into the world of wrestling entertainment. The Rock has also noted that everyone in both sports and sports entertainment uses steroids to get big. It's the industry that still has a lot of culture to look the other way when it comes to taking performance-enhancing drugs to gain strength, muscle mass, a great physique, and overall boost wrestling performance. While Joe received a lot of backlash from his podcast and exposing people in the industry for using steroids, The Rock would come to his defense and he would say, "Great stuff here, brother, perfectly articulated. Look forward to coming on one day and breaking out the tequila with you." At number 9, Jason Momoa. The Rock wouldn't be the only one Joe Rogan would expose on his podcast, as he would also bring Jason Momoa into light when he asked Derek if he thought Jason Momoa was on the sauce. Derek, who is the founder of More Pilates, More Dates Fitness website, replied by saying, "I think my conclusion at the time is really iffy. One, because the guy is just a built dude to begin with like a big frame. But it would be safer to assume that he probably did a little something for his peak superhero." Now, there's been a lot of debate for a while now on whether or not Jason has been using steroids in order to enhance his physique. And this wouldn't be the first or the last time the actor will be accused of taking them. With Jason having such an incredible physique, it's hard to really tell if he has or is currently taking steroids. In most cases, it's pretty hard to tell if an actor is taking steroids unless they admit it. However, if you take a good look at him, I will admit he does have some exceptional genetics and a very aesthetically pleasing looking body. He has great abs, broad shoulders, and an impressive pair of arms. While his physique can be naturally obtained without the use of steroids, considering the little amount of time actors actually get to themselves, it's pretty safe to say at one point Jason has probably used steroids to help him gain a bigger physique. And number 8, Chris Hemsworth. The last actor to be brought up in Joe Rogan's podcast for using steroids would be Chris Hemsworth, with Derek claiming that Chris has sauced it up 100%. Rogan would even agree by saying, "Yeah, I think so too, and that there's nothing wrong with it." Chris has become a household name thanks to his role as Thor. However, before his days as the famous Asgardian god, he wasn't even bulky, and even to get the role, producers had to ask him to put on some more muscles. Even with his background as a surfer who occasionally lift, putting on 20 pounds of muscle can be daunting, especially if you're not using anything to jack it up, and not to mention it can be pretty hard to jack it up in a short amount of time. Although many people have affiliated Chris Hemsworth with steroids, many people, including his trainer, have tried to deny it, that he's been using it to help maintain his Thor build. However, with no actual proof, without Chris coming out to say that he's been using steroids to enhance his appearance, it's actually pretty hard to say that he uses. And number 7, Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan is famously known today for his podcast, but to say that he's familiar with all sorts of performance enhancing substances would be an understatement. So that's why when he accused The Rock's, Jason, and Chris, we pretty much had to believe him. Before becoming one of the most listened to voices on Spotify, Joe had a career that revolved around contact sports as a host, commentator, and interviewer, which means he naturally had the scoop on what was really going on behind the scenes, and more often than not, he was involved in using steroids for a great physique. Now, Joe has admitted to using steroids and other performance enhancing substances throughout his show, as he has been using them for more than a decade now, with Joe somehow having the power to get people to admit they're using steroids by exposing them. We could see Jason and Chris come out soon with the actual truth. While Joe didn't use steroids to bulk up, he has taken low doses to overcome the signs of aging, and he's been pretty straightforward when it comes to admitting that he used them. With him spending a large part of his career as a UFC commentator and a comedian, he knows the signs of people using, so if he exposes someone, you know it might just very well be the truth. And number 6, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold is a 7-time Mr. Olympia, actor, and former governor of California. Being at the highest level of bodybuilding isn't easy, but staying at that level requires athletes to pump the iron, especially when it comes to landing film roles. In some cases, it may require these actors and athletes to use steroids, and this happened to be the case with Arnold. So Arnold has admitted to using steroids, but in his defense, he's always claimed that it was pretty new back in the day when it hit the market and no one really knew how damaging it was, and everyone was using it. In an interview in 2006, Arnold would even say that he never regretted being a steroid user, or that he had gotten himself into the habit of using steroids. Arnold has said that he took them under the careful watch of doctors and other health experts, And he also stated that he and other competitors at the time even took steroids on competition day. Even today, steroids aren't officially banned in many bodybuilding competitions, but some contests absolutely require the contestant to use natural supplements over steroids, and they even have competitors tested prior to the competition. With Arnold remaining one of the most prominent figures in bodybuilding, a lot of controversy still surrounds him due to his use of steroids. And number 5, Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke has been a pretty controversial character over the years, so it's not really hard to believe that he would use steroids or do any type of performance enhancing substances for a movie. When filming The Wrestler, apparently his role inspired him to take steroids to look bigger and more impressive. However, the only problem with his thoughts about steroids is that although they did make him look bigger, they definitely didn't make him look impressive after using steroids. It would actually cause him to look worn out, which of course was a big part of the role since he was supposed to be a worn out wrestler that was just barely making ends meet. His excuse that he ended up using steroids because he wanted to do what wrestlers did had to be as authentic about it as possible, and probably one of the most insane things that any actor has ever said or done when it comes to method acting. While Mickey would never fully classify what he took to get into his role, he would say, "I'm a wrestler, I behave like a wrestler." So if you put 2 and 2 together, then you can definitely agree that he did in fact use steroids to build his body up for the role. And number 4, Sylvester Stallone. As a Hollywood actor and action icon, Sylvester Stallone will always be known for his roles in some of the most iconic action films in cinematic history, especially in the movie Rocky. Because of the physical nature of the films Sylvester has starred in, maintaining a muscular physique has always been one of his top 5 things to do to keep up with his image. Just like any action stars that come into the 80s and the 90s, Rambo himself had to wrestle against Father Time, and with it he needed the help from steroids. Sylvester has even said, as you get older, the pituitary glands slow and you feel older. Your bones narrow and this stuff gives your body a boost and you feel and look good. Now, back in 2007, the action actor did admit that he was caught trying to smuggle steroids into Australia, so that also made him become more completely open about his use to the performance enhancing substance. And number 3, 50 Cent. Now there's been a lot of discussion when it comes to 50 Cent and his steroid use. Depending on whom you ask, 50 Cent could be a nobody or one of the best rappers in the industry in the early 2000s. He even appears in some film roles where he needed to be ripped and bulky. If you compare 50 Cent from before to now, you can clearly see that he didn't look half as big as he did now. With such dramatic weight and muscle changes in a short amount of time, many have speculated that the star has used steroids to achieve his look. Although the star has been accused of receiving doses of steroids from a licensed testosterone replacement therapy clinic, it also has not been clearly proven that he actually did. However, if you look at before and after photos and how quickly he got bulkier, it's clear the star definitely used something. 50 Cent has never admitted to using steroids. However, in 2008, he would find himself under a steroid investigation alongside fellow artists in the rap industry. He was named to have connections with doctors, pharmacists, and clinics that provided these substances to people. And number 2, Mark Wahlberg. Actor Richard Rodriguez, a jailed steroid distributor who was under investigation by the DEA, decided to lift the lid on a number of A-list celebrities who he allegedly used to supply steroids to. In an interview with filmmaker John Bravo, Richard would name Mark Wahlberg as one of his longtime customers. He would also name him in a lawsuit filed against him in the state of New York. Richard would explain on numerous occasions Mark would order the steroids under a different name by using doctors' names or women's names, and he would even have the substances delivered to different addresses to avoid detection. With Mark being able to gain 45 pounds within 7 weeks for a film, many people have speculated that Richard's claims are true. As it is, it's pretty much impossible for any experienced lifter to do that. While some have tried to claim that Mark has some pretty awesome genetics and his body doesn't show any symptoms of using, it makes you wonder why Richard would list him as a big time client and why he would lie if Mark wasn't one. And number 1, Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck isn't exactly the name you recall when you think about the Batman or Daredevil, but his performance as the Dark Knight in Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman has pretty much made him a cult favorite, to say at least. When the film was first released, the first things fans would notice was how big Ben got, and the truth be told, Ben is one of the biggest Batmans we've seen in film. After all, the role was for someone who had to wrestle with Henry Cavill. The body of Christian Bale had in the Nolanverse wasn't going to cut it. In the film, we saw a snippet of workout routines Bruce Wayne does, but it's not totally impossible that Ben did the same workout routines to get the body Hollywood wanted him to have. However, the short amount of time he had to actually get his body to live up to Hollywood standards for the film was actually quite short, and that's why there's been a lot of speculation and people coming forward to say that the star used steroids to get the image he had in the film.